Good day, everyone. Today I want to talk about something we often overlook: the secret power of focusing on yourself. Not in a selfish way, not in a way that isolates you from others, but in a way that elevates your life, your impact, and your purpose. Too many people spend their time looking outward, seeking approval, comparing their progress, chasing validation. They measure their success by how they stack up against others. But the real game changer in life is not about outpacing others, it's about mastering yourself. Clarity is your superpower because it serves as the foundation for everything you want to create in life. Without clarity, it's easy to move through life on autopilot, reacting to whatever comes your way instead of intentionally building the life you desire. Most people think they are making progress simply because they are busy, but there is a huge difference between movement and progress. You can be busy every single day and still feel stuck because busyness without direction leads nowhere. Clarity gives your life direction. It's the ability to see beyond the noise, beyond the expectations of others, and understand what truly matters to you. When you focus on yourself, clarity becomes one of your greatest advantages because it forces you to ask the hard questions. Who am I? What do I want? What kind of life do I want to build? These are the questions most people avoid because they require honesty. They require you to look inward and take responsibility for your own life. The moment you stop looking outward for answers and start turning inward, everything begins to shift. You stop chasing what others have and start discovering what was meant for you all along. Clarity is not something that just happens, it's something you create. It comes from spending time with yourself, getting to know your own thoughts, and disconnecting from the constant noise around you. In a world full of distractions, clarity becomes your competitive advantage. The more you know yourself, the less you feel the need to explain yourself. When you're clear on your purpose, your decisions become easier. You no longer waste energy trying to fit into someone else's vision of success. You create your own definition of success and build your life around it. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with clarity is because they are afraid of slowing down. They believe if they stop moving, they'll fall behind. But clarity doesn't come from constant motion, it comes from stillness. It's in the quiet moments that you realize what's truly important. It's in the pause that you separate what is urgent from what is essential. When you give yourself permission to slow down, you give yourself the chance to reflect and realign. Clarity is also about alignment, aligning your actions with your values. Many people feel unfulfilled not because they're not working hard, but because they're working hard on the wrong things. They're chasing what looks good instead of what feels right. But when you gain clarity, you start making choices that align with who you are at your core. You stop saying yes to everything just to please others, and you start saying yes only to what moves you closer to your vision. Clarity empowers you to take ownership of your life. It shifts your mindset from victim to creator. You stop blaming circumstances, people, or the past, and you start realizing that your life is a reflection of your choices. And the clearer you become about what you want, the more confident you become in your decisions. Confidence doesn't come from having all the answers, it comes from having clarity on what matters most and trusting yourself to figure out the rest. When you are clear on your purpose, distractions lose their power. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone because you're already grounded in who you are. Clarity makes you unstoppable because it removes the need for external validation. You realize that your path doesn't have to make sense to anyone else as long as it makes sense to you. The secret is clarity creates energy. The clearer you are, the more focused and intentional you become. It's not just about knowing what you want, it's about knowing what you're willing to let go of. Clarity helps you cut off everything that doesn't serve your vision, whether it's habits, relationships, or opportunities that look good on the surface but don't align with your purpose. The truth is, most people are not stuck because they lack talent or resources, they're stuck because they lack clarity. They spend more time looking at what everyone else is doing instead of turning inward. But the moment you gain clarity, everything changes. You become more intentional with your time. You become more protective of your energy. You start moving with purpose instead of just moving for the sake of motion. Clarity is your greatest superpower because once you know who you are and what you want, no one can take that away from you. It gives you the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your vision. It gives you the confidence to trust your own path, even if it looks different from everyone else's. And it gives you the freedom to live life on your own terms. The world will always try to pull you in different directions. There will always be noise, opinions, and distractions. But the people who create extraordinary lives are the ones who tune out the noise and tune to themselves. They protect their clarity like it's their greatest asset, because it is. When you have clarity, everything else becomes a byproduct: success, happiness, and impact. So if you feel lost, if you feel like you're running in circles, stop trying to find the answers outside of yourself. Slow down. Get quiet. Ask yourself the hard questions. The answers are already within you. The secret power of focusing on yourself is that the more you align with who you are, the clearer your path becomes. And once you have clarity, nothing can stop you. Self-alignment fuels impact, because the greatest impact you can make in the world starts with who you are, not what you do. Many people believe that their impact comes from their actions, what they create, what they achieve, or how much they contribute. But true impact doesn't start with action, it starts with alignment. It starts with becoming the kind of person whose actions naturally create positive change. When you align who you are with what you do, your life becomes a reflection of your core values, and your impact becomes a byproduct of your authenticity. Alignment is the invisible force behind every great leader, creator, or game changer. It's the difference between success that feels forced and success that feels fulfilling. When you're aligned, your actions flow naturally. You don't have to push or force your way forward. You attract the right opportunities because you're operating from a place of truth. The reason most people feel stuck or uninspired is not because they lack talent or ambition, but because they are disconnected from themselves. They are chasing outcomes without first becoming the person capable of sustaining those outcomes. Self-alignment happens when your thoughts, beliefs, and actions are in harmony. It's when what you think, what you say, and what you do are all pointing in the same direction. But that kind of alignment doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. It requires you to slow down, reflect, and ask yourself, am I living in a way that aligns with who I truly am? Too often we adopt beliefs, habits, or goals that aren't even ours. We inherit them from society, family, or the people around us. But the more we try to live according to someone else's blueprint, the further we drift from our own truth. When you're out of alignment, you can feel it even if you can't always explain it. There's a heaviness, a sense of disconnect between what you're doing and who you're becoming. And you might be checking all the boxes, getting the job, building relationships, chasing success, but something still feels off. That feeling is not a sign that you're failing, it's a signal that you're not aligned. The good news is self-alignment is always available to you. It's not something you find, it's something you create by making intentional choices every single day. One of the first steps towards self-alignment is getting clear on your values. What do you stand for? What truly matters to you? Not what looks good on paper or what society says you should value, what matters to you at your core. When you live according to your values, your life begins to feel more meaningful, even if your external circumstances haven't changed yet. Alignment doesn't always show up in the form of instant results, it shows up first as inner peace. The most powerful thing about self-alignment is that it naturally fuels impact without forcing it. You don't have to constantly chase recognition or prove your worth to others. When you're aligned, your energy speaks louder than your words. People feel it when you're living in truth. They are drawn to your authenticity because so few people are brave enough to live that way. The more aligned you become, the more magnetic you become. Opportunities, relationships, and success start to flow toward you because you're no longer trying to be something you're not. You're simply becoming more of who you already are. But alignment also requires courage. It means making decisions that protect your values, even when those decisions are uncomfortable. It means walking away from situations, people, or opportunities that no longer serve your highest self, even if they once did. It means trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to have it. That kind of trust is not always easy, especially in a world that constantly tells you to compromise who you are to get ahead. But the truth is, nothing built on self-betrayal will ever bring lasting fulfillment. Self-alignment creates impact not just because of what you do, but because of who you become in the process. You become a living example of what it means to lead from within. You show others that it's possible to succeed without sacrificing your peace or integrity. You prove that the best way to inspire others is not by telling them what to do, but by showing them what's possible through the way you live. That kind of impact creates a ripple effect because when one person steps into alignment, it gives others permission to do the same. The world doesn't need more people chasing external success. It needs more people who are brave enough to align with their purpose. It needs more people who understand that impact is not about how loud you are, but how aligned you are. The most powerful leaders are not the ones with the biggest platforms. They are the ones who have the deepest alignment between who they are and what they do. If you're searching for impact, the answer is not out there, it's within you. Focus less on what you're trying to achieve and more on who you're trying to become. The more aligned you are with your truth, the more natural your impact becomes. You won't have to force your way into rooms, you'll be invited. You won't have to chase opportunities, they'll find you. Because alignment is the highest form of influence. The secret is this: your greatest impact will always come from your highest alignment. The more you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the more value you'll bring to the world around you. And the more you lead yourself, the more you'll inspire others to do the same. Self-alignment is not just a personal journey, it's how you create lasting impact without losing yourself along the way. Your energy flows where your attention goes, because whatever you consistently focus on becomes the driving force of your life. The mind is like a powerful engine, always working whether you're aware of it or not. The problem is, most people are directing that engine toward the wrong destinations without even realizing it. Every thought, every emotion, and every moment of attention you give to something is a form of energy. And energy is not neutral, it either builds your life or drains it. The quality of your life is a direct reflection of what you give your attention to every single day. If you constantly focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what's outside of your control, you will feel drained, stuck, and powerless. But if you shift your attention toward what you can control, your growth, your habits, your mindset, your energy naturally begins to rise. The challenge is that most people are living on autopilot, giving their attention to whatever is loudest, not what's most important. Social media, negative conversations, other people's opinions, these distractions are constantly fighting for your attention. And the more attention you give them, the more they consume your energy without giving anything back. What you focus on expands. If you spend your days focused on problems, your problems will feel bigger. If you constantly think about your limitations, those limitations will become stronger. But the same principle works in your favor. If you focus on possibilities, solutions, and your own personal growth, those areas will expand. Your energy doesn't care whether you're focused on something positive or negative, it simply follows your attention. The more intentional you become with where you place your attention, the more control you have over your life. The secret most people never realize is that energy is a currency. You're either investing it or wasting it every single day. Every thought, every conversation, every activity costs you energy. The question is, are you investing your energy into things that move your life forward, or are you spending it on things that leave you feeling empty? Scrolling through social media for hours drains energy. Complaining about your circumstances drains energy. Worrying about things you can't control drains energy. But reading, learning, practicing gratitude, working on your craft, those things multiply your energy. One of the biggest shifts in life happens when you realize that protecting your attention is the same as protecting your energy. Most people guard their money more than they guard their energy, but you can always make more money. You can't create more energy without managing your attention first. The things you give your attention to are shaping your future, even when you're not aware of it. The music you listen to, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, every little thing is feeding your mind and influencing how you feel and what you believe. When you focus on yourself, on your growth, your healing, and your goals, your energy begins to align with the person you're becoming. Suddenly, things that once drained you no longer have power over you. You stop entertaining negativity because you realize it's too expensive to your energy. You stop chasing validation because you're too focused on your own path. The more you pour your attention into yourself, the more your life starts to transform. Not because the world around you changed, but because your energy changed. The truth is, your attention is your most valuable resource, and most people are giving it away for free. Every time you engage with something that doesn't serve your highest self, you're paying for it with your energy. The people who create extraordinary lives are not necessarily more talented, they're just more intentional with where they place their attention. They understand that focus is their superpower, and they protect it at all costs. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. Because the more energy you invest in yourself, the more you have to give to the world. You can't pour into others from an empty cup. You can't build something great while constantly feeding distractions. The more attention you give to your growth, your health, your mindset, your purpose, the more energy you'll naturally have to impact others. But this requires discipline. It means being mindful of the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, and the environments you spend time in. It means asking yourself daily, is this feeding my energy or draining it? The moment you become intentional with your attention, your life starts moving in a different direction. Things that once seemed out of reach start feeling possible simply because you're no longer wasting your energy on what doesn't matter. Your energy will always follow your attention, and your life will always follow your energy. If you want to change your life, you don't need to work harder, you need to focus better. Instead of trying to control everything around you, start by controlling where your mind goes. Focus on what you can build, not what you've lost. Focus on what's possible, not what's missing. Focus on who you're becoming, not who you've been. The greatest transformation in life doesn't happen when your circumstances change, it happens when your focus changes. Because the moment you direct your attention inward, everything outward begins to shift. Your habits shift. Your confidence shifts. Your relationships shift. The world around you is simply reflecting the energy you're giving it. So if you're feeling stuck, the first place to look is your attention. What are you feeding your mind every day? What conversations are you entertaining? What distractions are stealing your energy? The power has always been in your hands. The secret is not in chasing more, doing more, wanting more. It's in redirecting your attention to what truly matters. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, your life grows. You are the project, not the side quest, because your entire life is built from the inside out. But most people don't see themselves that way. They move through life treating themselves like an afterthought, prioritizing relationships, careers, and external achievements while neglecting the one thing that holds everything together, themselves. They pour their energy into building things outside of them, hoping that success, love, or validation will somehow fill the gaps within. But the truth is, everything you're chasing will always reflect the person you're becoming. The most important project you'll ever work on is not your career, your business, or your relationships, it's you. When you make yourself the project, everything around you begins to shift. Your career grows because you're becoming more disciplined, more confident, and more valuable. Your relationships improve because you're setting boundaries, healing wounds, and showing up as your best self. But when you treat yourself like a side quest, something you'll get to once everything else is in place, you'll always feel like you're falling behind. Because the external world will never compensate for what you're neglecting on the inside. The reason so many people feel lost or stuck is because they are trying to build a life without building themselves first. They chase success before they build self-discipline. They seek love before they learn self-love. They want recognition before they've even discovered who they really are. But life doesn't work that way. The life you want will only ever be a reflection of the person you become. If you're not growing, your life can't grow either. You are not a supporting character in your own life. You're not here just to meet other people's needs, fulfill expectations, or fit into someone else's vision. You are the project, the main event. And the moment you start treating yourself that way, everything changes. The way you speak to yourself changes. The way you prioritize your time changes. The way you allow others to treat you changes. Because when you understand that you're the foundation, you stop tolerating anything that weakens that foundation. But making yourself the project requires a mindset shift. It means understanding that self-investment is not selfish, it's essential. Most people avoid focusing on themselves because they've been conditioned to believe that prioritizing their own growth means neglecting others. But the opposite is true. The more you pour into yourself, the more you have to give to others. The more whole you become, the more value you bring to every relationship, every opportunity, and every room you walk into. When you become the project, self-discipline becomes a daily habit, not an occasional effort. You stop making excuses for why you can't prioritize your health, your mindset, or your dreams. You start treating your own growth like a non-negotiable, not something you'll get to when you have more time, more money, or more energy. Because the truth is, you won't have more energy until you invest energy into yourself. You won't have more confidence until you build the habits that create confidence. You won't attract better relationships until you become someone who sets higher standards for themselves. Most people are waiting for external circumstances to change before they start working on themselves. They tell themselves, I'll start taking care of myself when life slows down. I'll start building better habits when I have more motivation, but life doesn't slow down. Motivation doesn't show up on its own. You have to create the environment where those things thrive. And that environment starts with making yourself the project every single day. When you commit to becoming the project, you stop outsourcing your happiness. You stop waiting for validation, love, or success to give you permission to feel worthy. You realize that your worth is built through the daily work you do on yourself, not through what others think of you. That kind of self-worth can't be taken away because it's built from within. And the more you invest in yourself, the more magnetic you become. People will start to notice your energy shift. Opportunities will begin to align. Not because you're chasing them, but because you're becoming the version of yourself who naturally attracts those things. But here's the hard truth. Nobody is coming to make you the project. Nobody is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, it's time to focus on you now. You have to give yourself permission. And you have to decide that you're worthy of the time, the effort, and the energy it takes to become who you're meant to be. You have to become the kind of person who wakes up every day and says, I am the project, not just on the good days. Not just when you're motivated, every day, especially when no one is watching. Becoming the project means understanding that your growth is the foundation for everything else. It means asking yourself daily, what am I building within myself today? Are you building discipline or making excuses? Are you building confidence or feeding self-doubt? Are you building boundaries or letting people drain your energy? Every choice you make is either contributing to your boundaries. Protect purpose, because without them, your energy, time, and vision are constantly at risk. Purpose is the guiding force that gives your life meaning. It's the reason you wake up every morning with a sense of direction. But no matter how clear your purpose is, without boundaries, it's impossible to protect what you're building. Boundaries are not just about saying no, they're about creating the structure that allows your purpose to thrive. They act as invisible walls around your energy, keeping what serves you in and filtering out what doesn't. Most people struggle with boundaries because they associate them with rejection or selfishness. They worry that setting limits will push people away or make them seem difficult. But the truth is, boundaries are one of the highest forms of self-respect. They don't just protect your time, they protect your identity, your peace, and your vision. Without boundaries, you're constantly leaking energy into things that don't align with your purpose. And when you're always giving your energy away to everyone and everything, you have nothing left to invest in your own growth. What many people don't realize is that the absence of boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-abandonment. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve your purpose, you're saying no to yourself. You're giving a piece of your future away in exchange for temporary comfort or approval. Purpose requires protection. It requires the courage to prioritize what you're building, even when it means disappointing others. Because not everyone will understand your boundaries, and that's okay. Your purpose is not up for negotiation. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are filters that allow the right energy in. They help you discern what adds to your life versus what drains you. Without boundaries, your life becomes a free-for-all where anyone's opinions, requests, or problems can take up space in your mind. But when you create boundaries, you're no longer available for every conversation, every invitation, or every drama that doesn't align with where you're going. You become more selective with your energy, and that selectiveness is what protects your purpose. Setting boundaries is not always easy, especially if you're used to being the person who always says yes. But every boundary you set is a declaration to the world. I value my vision. I value my peace. I value myself, and the more you protect your purpose, the more others begin to respect it. People will only treat your vision with the same level of respect that you treat it yourself. If you're constantly allowing distractions to pull you away, you're sending the message that your purpose isn't that important. But when you guard your energy, your habits, and your time like they are sacred, because they are, people start to notice. Boundaries are not just about protecting what drains you, they're about creating space for what fuels you. When you set boundaries around your time, you're giving yourself permission to prioritize your own growth. When you set boundaries around your relationships, you're choosing to surround yourself with people who align with your purpose. When you set boundaries around your mental space, you're choosing to fill your mind with thoughts, content, and conversations that elevate you. Every boundary you create is a step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until they feel burned out or disrespected to set boundaries. But boundaries are not just a reaction, they're a strategy. You don't set boundaries because you're overwhelmed, you set them to prevent overwhelm in the first place. Boundaries are an act of self-leadership. They require you to know who you are, what you're building, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate on the journey. There will always be people who try to test your boundaries. There will always be distractions disguised as opportunities. But when you're clear on your purpose, saying no becomes easier. You're not rejecting people, you're protecting the vision that you're carrying. The more you align with your purpose, the more you'll realize that not everything deserves your energy. Not every invitation is meant for you. Not every relationship is meant to last. Not every opportunity is worth the cost of your peace. The most powerful thing about boundaries is that they don't just protect your purpose, they reinforce it. Every time you set a boundary, you're reminding yourself what truly matters. You're proving to yourself that your vision is worth protecting. And that inner self-respect becomes the foundation for everything you're building. Boundaries help you stay aligned in a world that constantly tries to pull you off track. If you're serious about your purpose, you need to become ruthless with your energy. You need to stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You need to understand that saying no to what doesn't serve you is really saying yes to what does. The people who create extraordinary lives are not the ones who give their energy to everything. They're the ones who protect their energy like it's their greatest asset. Because it is. Your purpose is not something you're given, it's something you're entrusted with. And if you're not willing to protect it, no one else will. The life you're trying to build requires a version of you that honors your time, your peace, and your energy above all else. Boundaries are not just about keeping distractions out there, about making room for the person you're becoming. The more you protect your purpose, the more powerful you become. And when you become unavailable for anything that doesn't align with your vision, that's when your life begins to transform. The world will always try to pull you in 1,000 different directions. But the people who create impact are the ones who refuse to be everything to everyone. They choose to be fully aligned with themselves first, because they know that the only way to truly serve others is to protect the purpose they've been called to carry. If you want to become the person you're meant to be, start by setting boundaries that protect the most valuable thing you have, your energy. Because where your energy goes, your life grows. Become, then attract, because everything you're chasing is simply a reflection of who you are becoming. The world around you is always responding to your energy, not your wishes. Most people spend their lives trying to attract things they haven't yet become ready to receive. They want love before they learn to love themselves. They want success before they build the discipline to sustain it. They want opportunities before they become the person who can handle them. But the truth is, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. Life is not about chasing, it's about aligning. The version of you that attracts the life you desire is not found through shortcuts, luck, or external validation. It's built through daily decisions, habits, and self-discipline. The hardest truth to accept is that what you're attracting right now is a mirror of who you currently are. If you're surrounded by chaos, it's reflecting your inner state. If you're attracting disrespect, it's reflecting your own self-worth. If you're struggling to find opportunities, it's reflecting the gaps in your own preparation. The outside world will always rise or fall to meet the frequency you're operating at. The secret is simple. You have to become it before you receive it. If you want a life of abundance, you have to become abundant in your mindset and habits first. If you want love, you have to embody love within yourself first. If you want success, you have to carry yourself like someone worthy of success before the results ever show up. The journey is always inward before it's outward. But most people try to skip that step. They want the reward without the transformation. They want the outcome without becoming the version of themselves who deserves it. Becoming is not about pretending, it's about aligning. It's about doing the internal work to close the gap between who you are today and who you're trying to become. That work is not always glamorous. It happens in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you choose discipline over comfort, self-reflection over distraction, and healing over numbing. The version of you who attracts the life you desire is built in the small daily choices that no one claps for. The truth is, life will never give you what you're not ready to hold. You can manifest, pray, or wish all you want, but if your habits, mindset, and energy don't align with what you're asking for, you'll either push it away or sabotage it the moment it arrives. This is why so many people lose what they attract. They didn't become the person who could sustain it. The universe doesn't operate on what you say you want, it operates on who you're becoming every day. The shift happens when you stop asking, when will I get what I want? And start asking, who do I need to become to receive what I desire? That question changes everything. It forces you to stop waiting and start working. It makes you realize that the version of you who attracts love, success, peace, or abundance is not someone in the distant future. It's someone you can choose to become right now through your habits, mindset, and self-discipline. Becoming happens in layers. It's not about overnight transformation, it's about consistent evolution. Every time you choose to show up differently, you're shifting your energy. Every time you set a boundary, practice discipline, or heal a wound, you're raising your frequency. And the higher your frequency becomes, the more naturally you attract what aligns with it. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. Your energy will pull it toward you when you're in alignment. But becoming also requires patience. The most frustrating part of self-development is that your outer reality always lags behind your inner growth. You might be doing all the right things, working on yourself, setting boundaries, building habits, and still not see immediate results. That's because the universe is testing you. It's asking, are you truly becoming? Or are you just performing? The delay between who you're becoming and what you're attracting is where most people give up. They think the process isn't working because they can't see the evidence yet. But the evidence always shows up, just never on your timeline. The journey of becoming is not always easy. It requires you to let go of the version of yourself that was comfortable with mediocrity, self-doubt, and playing small. It requires you to break habits, heal wounds, and release attachments to people and environments that no longer align with where you're going. But every time you shed a layer of the old you, you're creating space for the life you've been asking for. The beauty of this process is that when you finally attract what you've been working toward, you'll realize that the reward is not the external result. It's who you had to become to receive it. The money, the relationship, the opportunities, they're simply a reflection of the inner transformation you've already experienced. And once you understand that, you'll stop chasing outcomes and start chasing alignment. If you're searching for love, become someone who embodies love. If you're chasing success, become someone who embodies discipline and self-worth. If you're seeking peace, become someone who protects their energy and prioritizes healing. The things you're trying to attract are not outside of you, they're already within you, waiting to be unlocked through your own evolution. You don't have to force or manipulate your way into the life you desire. You simply have to become the kind of person who naturally attracts what you're seeking. The life you're dreaming of is not waiting for you, it's waiting for the version of you who is bold enough to become it first. Stop chasing. Start becoming. Because when you become, you don't have to beg, force, or prove your worth. You simply align and what's meant for you finds its way to your door without you ever needing to chase it.